So it was the spring of 2005 when I first began experiencing symptoms. I started noticing these strange sensations at the back of my head if I got up too quickly or moved in a funny way. I was finishing up my exams of my first year of my undergrad at Western, so it was pretty easy for me to just brush it off as stress-related or something like that. So I mostly just ignored them, even as they grew worse throughout the summer. But by the end of the summer, the headaches were getting worse and more frequent. I still wasn't too concerned at this point, though. But by the end of the summer, it was rag weed season, and my allergies were driving me nuts. So I decided to make a doctor's appointment to talk to my doctor about my allergies, and figured I would mention the headaches while I was there. So I saw my doctor and I told her what was going on, and surprise, surprise, she wasn't all that interested in my allergies. She ordered a CT scan instead, and there was a bit of a wait before the scan, and my symptoms really started to worsen in that time. Every morning I woke up with a pulsing headache, and usually I'd get one later in the day too. And my appetite was starting to be affected, especially in the morning. So I basically stopped eating breakfast and reduced what I ate at other meals. So I started to lose weight, which kind of have a small frame, so that was a little bit alarming. So it was a gray and ominous day in November of 2005 that I had the CAT scan, and they spotted the tumor right away. At this point, at least for myself, I knew something was wrong, so the diagnosis wasn't a big shock to me. It was a bit of relief, actually, but my parents had been holding out hope that it was, stress or hormone-related or something less terrifying than a brain tumor. So they had a bit of a hard time with it, which brings me to my first tip. Don't have the worst-case scenario conversation 30 minutes after being diagnosed with little to no information on what the actual prognosis might be. So what happened was I had the scan at Victoria Hospital here in London, and they told us there was a lesion on my brain, so then we were sent over to University Hospital where a doctor would be waiting for us. And so I don't really know the reasoning of what happened, but I was told to go change into a gown. I was in one of those little pods at the emergency room. And while I was doing that, my parents were ushered away by a social worker. And so I was waiting around and finally stuck my head out and saw them talking to her, and they looked just absolutely devastated. So they eventually came back, and eventually I found out the story. I guess the social worker had told them that this was very serious, and they should prepare themselves, whatever that means. I don't know I guess my parents looked upset, but I don't think any more upset than what would be expected of parents who had just learned this about their daughter. And we never saw that social worker again. So I think she had been referred to try and comfort my parents, maybe, but it kind of had the opposite effect. And I didn't really appreciate, I was 19 at the time, and I didn't really appreciate being excluded from the conversation. So anyways, another tip, visual aids are great. So I had an MRI, and surgery happened quickly. My surgeon was Dr. Megacy, and he was really great. He explained everything really clearly, and he used the Brain Tumor Foundation handbook to kind of map everything out and drew exactly where my tumor was and that sort of thing. So having that visual helped me, and then it was a record, too, of things we had talked about. So I had surgery. It was about 10 hours long, but it went really well. My parents and family had been hanging out in the waiting room all day, and so when they finally got the good news, from what I hear, this waiting room looks something like this. So I spent about a week in the hospital recovering. I saw a physical therapist as well as an occupational therapist briefly. I had a bit more recovery to do once I was home, mostly with my balance and dizziness, stiffness in my neck muscles from the surgery, and just some fine motor skills in my right hand. About a month after surgery, I began radiation treatment, and I had the most misconceptions, I guess, about radiation. I didn't know very much about it at the time, so I had all these kind of strange fears about what might happen. My knowledge of radiation comes from comic books and that sort of thing, so I was afraid. Well, I wasn't really, but didn't think I'd turn into Dr. Manhattan or anything like that. and not to be another person hating on Lance Armstrong, but it's kind of Lance Armstrong's fault, because I had read the Not About the Bike book, I think it was called, and I'm probably even not remembering it accurately, but I remember him talking about when radiation was discussed as possible treatment for himself, that he didn't want to do it because he had heard people weren't the same afterwards, after radiation for the brain, could affect your personality and memory and all this sort of thing. But anyways, I had radiation and I didn't have any of these kind of side effects. I really only felt tired and some hair fell out, but that was about it. And anyways, so I had 6 weeks of that, and it was fine, and now I just have MRIs to keep an eye on things. Now just down to once a year. It's been about 8 years now, and they want to monitor for 10 years, so might only need 2 more years to go. So anyways, things are good. This is me with one of our cats. I'm working as an occupational therapist now, so that's great, in the community here in London. And I just got married in August, and life is pretty great at the moment.